There's quite a few people had bigger horses, full-size horses, you know. And, some of our neighboring Indians had their horses that bring them in. They're usually the ones that won the races. Ones our neighbors had were too fat or something.
Nearly everybody played ball and played hockey. And that was the big thing, you know. And sports days were great. You'd play ball, you'd ride horses, you'd go running and high jump and hop, skip and jump and everything to make a nickel, you know.
You were saying they fished with a pitchfork?
Yeah, fish.
With a pitchfork?
Yeah. You know, well, the creek wasn't that deep, you know. It was running on, and there was in our field over there was big stones in the bottom of the creek, and that's, they used to like to, they said the fish used to like to stay there and kind of warm or rest or whatever, and they would go, if they could go there quiet and put the pitchfork under the fish, they would just flip it out from there. And once it flips out on the ground where the fish couldn't swim.
Was there prohibition in Canada?
Yeah, we did. And that was funny too, because before that nobody drank. And once prohibition came in, everybody was making home brew, including me. But I had a cousin going to the university in Saskatoon, and he was taking that. So he brought me everything I needed to do, and the recipe, how to make good alcohol. So I used to set this, you'd have to have this mash, and then you'd distill it. So one time, my husband liked to read all these little classified ads, and they were advertising flavors, you know, to put into brew, scotch and rye and gin and vodka and rum, I guess 6, that you could get these flavors to flavor, because those would be pure alcohol that you'd get. So he sent for it to the States, and it had to go through customs, of course. So this comes here, and we're putting it into that. I did the brewing, and my husband didn't bother with it. And one day, if a Mountie doesn't show up at the door, wants to know what I'm using those flavors for, because it was the days of the prohibition. So I had to think fast, because you're caught brewing, you're in trouble. Well, I says, I use it for flavor around my cooking. I don't know if he believed me or not, but he let it go. Maybe he figured, oh, well, that little creature, she can't be too, cause too much damage here. But we had some people north of us that used to sell it, they'd brew and they'd sell it. And they'd get caught every so often, and then they fined a couple $100. And they were good Liberals, and the Liberals were in power then in Saskatchewan. That was in Gardner's days, I guess. So then these guys paid a $200 fine, and the Liberals would give them the $200 out of, I suppose, government money. I don't know where they, but anyway, they'd pay. So they keep on with their business. That's the way it went on like that till, oh yeah, I remember that bootlegging.
I kind of hate to think of this, what we used to do, but the section house where Yestricks lived was at the far east end of town. And when these guys would come in with their home brew, across Tommy Mills's field, there'd be a big haystack, their straw stack. and they dumped their homebrew just to see if Mitchell was the corporal was in town. If he wasn't in town, they'd bring their own brew in. But we'd see them come across there and then relieve them of 2 or 3 gallons of home brew. Jeez.
Well, everybody used to make their own. And what did they used to say? It used to cost about, well, the heat power never cost anything because it was all wood to cook it. And sugar was about $10 100 pounds, $8, $10. And they used to be able to make about 10 gallons of moonshine out of that. So it didn't cost that much.
And we got to the house, and we just so got into the house when the big main storm hit. And so then we all went down in the basement. I don't know how long it lasted, maybe 10 minutes or 15. And when we came up, the house was a terrible mess because it smashed windows, put hail inside of it. And then we went, I remember I walked to the front door with my dad, and he looked across the field. It was about 1.5 miles away, and Jimmy Ferrier's farm was there, and he can remember him saying so clear, "My God, Jimmy Ferrier's barn is gone." And you know, the funny part of it was he shouldn't have been able to see Jimmy Ferrier's barn because ours would have been in the road.
The most remarkable thing I remember about that storm was a yard a couple of miles southwest of here had Hall's barn, not barn. There was a piece of the barn, yes, it wrecked his barn too. A piece of the barn, a splintered 2x4, drove through right through the trunk of the tree up by the house. And that splinter went through the tree and came out the other side. And it wasn't a small tree, it was 10, 12 inches in diameter in that trunk. How it went through that, I don't know. Had some power behind it. Must have been going fast.
This farmer's son, he said he had this dynamite out in the back of an old thrash machine and he wanted to get rid of it. I said, well, how many sticks did he put in? Oh, I don't know, he said. Well, I said, how many did you tell him? Oh, a few. Well, it was unreal. All of us, and he didn't even have the rain backhoe sitting there. He'd moved it away over, so I knew there was something. Anyway, it went off, and I'll tell you, it was unbelievable. The peak on the front of the barn, this cupola that comes out, it took off all the boards out of there. It broke all the windows in the front of the barn. And there was a couple of old horses leaning over the edge of the fence, and I'll never forget that. Just poof, they took the fence and all with them, and across the field they went.
Oh, great dear Sherwin, she ate what she used to be. And the other guy says, no, she never was. That was on the record. One of the records. I guess they learned the tunes off the records. We had a gramophone that, of course, you had to wind it up by hand and had these cylinders. They weren't flat like they were later on. They were cylinders, and so we had one of those.
Oh, the old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be. The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be.